Well, good morning, and as usual, remember this is the day the Lord's made. We'll rejoice and be glad in it. Today, we're going to look at the beginning of his teaching from John chapter 5, verse 17 through 24. I explained last week that in the Gospels, we have recorded all that Jesus did and taught, according to Acts chapter 1, verse 1. Some want to argue which of these two are the most important, his teaching or his doing. Actually, these are interwoven because what he taught explains what he did, and what he did confirms what he taught. In this chapter, we have both miracles and teaching. Last week we looked at the miracle, the healing of the man that had been lame for years, and the attitude of the religious people, how they accused Jesus of being a Sabbath breaker. Today we'll begin examining his teaching and his defense concerning those accusations of being a Sabbath breaker. But first, let's look at his doctrine. In verse 17, it says, "But Jesus answered them, My Father has been working until now, and I've been working." Right here, he's justifying what he did on the Sabbath. He said, by the way, in Matthew chapter 12, verse 18, "For the Son of Man is the Lord even of the Sabbath." He's teaching that man's not made for the Sabbath. The Sabbath is made for man, a day of rest. By the way, it's my own personal opinion that Sabbath does not mean Saturday. By the way, if you look it up, in a Greek dictionary, it'll tell you that it just means a day of rest. So therefore, if you go to work on Sunday or whatever day, you count 6 days, and then the next day, the 7th day, you rest. It doesn't mean Saturday. I hope you get that. But anyway, because, by the way, I used to work every third Saturday and every third Sunday when I was on the fire department. But anyway, he's also teaching of his position and authority right here in this area. He proclaims that he is the Son of God, plainly shown in his calling God his Father. He also proclaimed he's a worker together with God, the Father. He says, "My Father has been working until now, and I've been working." He's saying, I also work with him. As God created all things by Christ, so he supports and governs all things by him. He that does all is Lord of all. Therefore, he's even the Lord of the Sabbath. I hope you get all this. Now, we see their displeasure. And of course, I'm talking about the religious folk of that day. In verse 18, it says, "Therefore, the Jews sought all the more to kill him, because he not only broke the Sabbath, but he also said that God was his Father, making himself equal with God." Offense was taken at his doctrine because he had broken the Sabbath and because he said also that God was his Father. Now, their pretended jealousy of God's honor and charging him with heinous crimes that he made himself equal to God. That's their whole crux of the matter. But by the way, they just pretended jealousy for God. They wanted the honor, not God. This was justly inferred because he said he was the Son of God and God was his Father. Yet he was unjustly accused of equaling himself with God. For he was and is God. He's fully man, but at the same time he is fully God. And finally, I want you to notice his discourse. His discourse in verses 19 through 24. Then Jesus answered and said to them, most surely I say to you, the Son of Man can do nothing of himself, but what he sees the Father do. And whatever he does, that is the Father, the Son also does in like manner. For the Father loves the Son and shows him all things that he himself does. And he will show him greater works than these, that you may marvel. For as the Father raises the dead and gives life to them, even so the Son gives life to whom he will. For the Father judges no one. Now, I want you to pause here for just a second and think about what I'm about to read, okay? From let me see, which verse is it? In verse 21 and 22. Jesus says, for the Father, 22 and 23. For the Father judges no one, but has committed all judgment to the Son, that all should honor the Son, just as they honor the Father. He who does not honor the Son does not honor the Father who sent him. Most surely I say to you, he who hears my word and believes in him who sent me has everlasting life, and shall not come, now listen, shall not come into judgment, but has passed from death to life. I love this. What he's telling me, he says, by your own admission, you're dead. You're going to be a crispy critter. You know what I'm saying? Now listen, he was saying it's not him, but the Father who does the miracles. All others wanted the recognition of doing supernatural things. By the way, what fuels the idea of faith healers? You know, R.W. Shambach, for instance, and maybe, you know, most people may not know him, but if you're from the South, you know him. He claimed to go around healing people. But who got the recognition? He did. For the supernatural healing. God didn't get the recognition. But listen, Jesus is saying, you know, what he's telling us here is everybody wants to take credit for what's being done. But I want you to notice, Jesus was giving credit to whom credit was due. That's God the Father. Notice also in verse 21. For as the Father raises the dead and gives life to them, even so the Son gives life to whom he will. How beautiful that is. He makes the statement and backs it up later. In Luke chapter 7, verses 12 through 15, it says, "And when he came near the gate of the city, behold, a dead man was being carried out. He's the only son of his mother, and his mother was a widow. And a large crowd from the city was with her. When the Lord saw her, he had compassion on her and said to her, 'Don't weep.' Then he came and touched the open coffin, and those who carried the dead man stood still. And Jesus said, 'Young man, I say to you, arise.' So he who was dead sat up and began to speak, and he presented him to his mother." You remember last week I said Jesus was constantly interrupting funeral services. He was a mortician's worst enemy. I mean, how can they charge for a funeral when the funeral was for a live man or a live person? It just doesn't work. You see what I'm saying? Listen, he tells us in John chapter 10, verse 10, "I have come that they may have life, and that they may have it more abundantly." I've often said this in churches, especially the churches that are pastored. You know, Jesus says that he's come that we may have life and that we may have it more abundantly. We need to tell our face that and put a smile on it for a change. And then I'd usually follow that up by saying, some of you look like you've been baptized in pickle juice. Listen, can you imagine what they thought when he said in verses 22 and 23, "For the Father judges no one, but has committed all judgment to the Son, that he should honor the Father, and they honor the Father. He who doesn't honor the Son doesn't honor the Father." The one they wanted to kill is the one whom God has given judgment over them. Ooh. They needed to think on that a little bit. The dishonor they gave Jesus shows their dishonor of God. The way of salvation, right there in verse 24. "Most surely I say to you, he who hears my word and believes in him who sent me has everlasting life, and shall not come into judgment, but is passed from death to life." Notice what it's not. Okay? That described what salvation is. But notice what it's not. It's not baptism. It's not confirmation. It's not even church membership, even with perfect attendance. When I lived out here before, our next door neighbor, and I loved the guy, but he was a staunch Methodist. And when I witnessed to him, he pulled out his membership card and showed me he was a member of the Methodist Church. I almost didn't have the heart to tell him that won't get him anywhere. But I did, and he got a little tiffed at me, I guess. But anyway, it's not church membership. It's not anything you do. It's what he has done. By the way, Matthew chapter 7, verses 21 to 23 should be the scariest verses for religious people. Jesus says, in that day, what day? The judgment day. In that day, many will say to me, "Lord, Lord, haven't we done many wonderful things? Haven't we cast out demons in your name? Haven't we proclaimed your word? Haven't we done many wonderful works in your name?" And then I'll say unto them, "Depart from me, you that work iniquity. I never knew you. That knew, the word that's translated knew, is a word that means to have an intimate relationship with Him. Folks, God is not concerned with what you do. He is concerned with why you do it. But what He's more concerned with is your relationship to Him. Listen, I ask people this on a regular basis. Do you think that King David, the man after God's own heart, is in heaven? And their answer is always the same. Well, sure. Do you realize he committed adultery? He committed murder? All the things that God is against. And yet he still was a man after God's own heart. Listen, salvation is for the person who believes in, that is, trusting in Jesus Christ. Believe there in the Greek is, in the Greek, the word that is translated believe is pisteuo, which is actively trusting in. You know, I'll give you a real good illustration. I went through the fire academy for the city of Dallas. And by the way, the city of Dallas has one of the best fire academies in the United States. And there's a lot of other people that go through the same academy that aren't Dallas firemen. But the bottom line is, there's two things, well, there's actually three things that will cause one of the men or I should say men or women, going through the academy, causes them to wash out. In other words, they fail. They walk off. They say, that's not for me. They will not do it. The first one is probably the one that bothered me the most. They took a 100-foot aerial ladder truck, which is the old hook and ladder truck, and they parked it, raised the ladder up to 100 feet, straight up and down. You climb up one side of it, cross over, and come back down the other side. You say, well, that wouldn't be bad. First of all, let me say this. You don't know, you haven't been 100 feet off the ground looking down, okay, if you think that's not bad. Secondly, if there's, let's say, a 5-mile-an-hour breeze, which is just a comfortable breeze, when you get to the top of that ladder is swaying about 12 feet back and forth. Now, okay, like I said, that's one of the things that they'll wash out. They'll start up that thing and they'll freeze. They'll say no. Second one is you climb up to a second-story window and you jump in the life net. That there's 6 firemen standing around holding the net, and you jump into it. You're trusting that they're gonna catch you. They're not going to let you drop to the ground. A lot of guys will get out there and freeze and say, I'm not jumping. But the one that got the most was rappelling the wall. You step off of the roof of a 6-story building, the drill tower as we call it, with a rope that you yourself have tied on, and you have it on your life belt, wrapped a certain way, and you jump off that wall, and you rappel down. The first time I did it, I went 1 story at a time. By the third time, I was going all the way down 6 floors and then landing smoothly. But that right there You've got to trust, place your trust in that rope. Let me tell you something. If you jump off a 6-story building, chances of you surviving are slim and none. So you think about that. Then let me also say this, that whenever you are rappelling down, you're not only trusting that rope, you're trusting that you tied it properly up there where it's going to hold your weight. And then thirdly, the way you wrap it around that coupling on your life belt means a lot too. And a lot of guys just wipe out on that. But I think that is a good illustration of pisteuo. You're placing your trust in that rope. You're placing your trust that you tied it properly and that the clamp will hold you. Let me ask you this. Are you placing your trust in Jesus Christ? Do you know for sure that you're going to heaven? Let me show you how you can know. Here, maybe you want to get a pencil and write this down. Do you have an intimate relationship with Him? Like I said, Matthew chapter 7, verse 23 says, "Then I declare to them, I never knew you. Depart from me, you who practice lawlessness." That "knew" is the Greek word gnosko, which means to have an intimate relationship with. Do you have a desire to converse with Him every day? Let me tell you something. I have an intimate relationship with my wife, and it has nothing to do with the bed. What it has to do with is we converse with each other day and night. We talk to each other. We love each other. For the most part, we want to be around each other. I say for the most part because sometimes we get on each other's nerves. But we love each other. Do you trust Jesus Christ with your life? Think about it. Now, it's a funny thing. And many say that they trust Him with their life. But they'll not trust Him with their money. I heard this from my former pastor. He said, giving is only an indication of where a person's heart is. In other words, if they don't trust God with their money, they're not going to give Him money. Or very little money. I'll get off that subject because I know I'm irritating some of you. Maybe you have these attributes, or maybe at one point you've had these attributes, but maybe now you've drifted away and you need to renew your commitment to Him. Or maybe you've never had these attributes to start with. You need to give your life to Jesus Christ. By the way, He wants only the best for you, number one. Number two, He's going to take care of you. By the way, if you need help to know how to give your life to Him, let me know. I promise you, I'll help you through the process. There'll be no pressure or anything. I will simply answer questions and show you what God says. My information is going to follow here in just a moment. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, God bless. Amen.